Uh-oh. Whoops.
He was truly not just the barber, but he was the scientist, so he could make up stuff.
Always inventing, Morrow is said to have originated the popular 1980s hairstyle, the Jeri Curl, before its namesake creator, Jerry Redding.
Mr. Morrow's curl version is 8 years before the commercialization one we know as Jeri.
So it's still playing, and then we're going to come in after it plays.
I don't see it anymore. Do you still see it?
Okay, there we are. Okay, guys, we are live and direct. We are live and direct here on Facebook as well as YouTube. And let me just tell you guys how excited I am. I'm hoping that the video has given you guys an excellent backdrop to what TC and I are about to share with you. And when I tell you I'm excited, I'm excited. What about you, TC?
Absolutely. Very excited to learn more and share this really, really riveting and interesting, enlightening story about hair care. A real hidden figure. We're gonna begin this journey today. So I'm excited.
All right, all right. So let me just give a little backdrop. So we're waiting for some people to come in the chat. So before we just jump right into the interview, we got Cheryl Morrow, the one and only. Oh my gosh, I just can't. I called her. I call her the ultimate Black hair care industry change agent. She's also the daughter of Dr. Willie Morrow. So before we actually begin to just go, we're going ham tonight. I have to give a couple of super duper what we call shout outs, okay? So my first shout out, of course, I have to give thanks to the ancestors because without them, there would be no us. So to all of our ancestors, my first and foremost, how I even got here would be Olive Benson. And then second would be Dr. Willie Morrow, though he's not our ancestor, he is our elder. So for sure, those are the two most influential people in my career. And then my mentor, who I love with all of my heart, that would be Ivan Williams. When I tell you he is the mentor of all mentors, this man gives me homework every 3 months like no other. I'm able to go live because of the one and only Kofi Pie, who's been like LaDosha, get it together, my excuse. I'm a hairstylist. So Kofi Pie of the Kofi Pie research team and the Mossy Warrior Clan. And I don't know if he's a part of the pseudo killers, but to Unc West, you guys, thanks so very much. And of course, my three aunts, my Aunt Mary in Memphis, who I know she's watching, like, because she's been texting, like, how do I make sure? So my Aunt Mary in Memphis, who always told me from the time I was a little girl that I could be anything that I wanted to be. My Aunt Kawanis, who of course is just like, you better get it right or else. So always that one family like taking no shorts. I'm sure we all have one of those family members who's like, no, I'm not taking any shorts. And then of course we have to give a super duper appreciation to my Aunt Muselle. She's 90 plus, and she has been a part of this wonderful organization that I just became a member of, and it's called the OAB. That is the Ohio Association of Beauticians. I believe it used to be called the Ohio Association of Black Beauticians, but they're welcoming everyone in. And so yesterday I officially became a member, which I've been trying to get in that set for like ever. So finally I'm in there. And then I have on La Barberia Institute t-shirt because Dr. Willie Morrow is a master barber. I'm not doing no interviews without nothing with a barber, something going on. We got 3 more interviews to go, and the world needs to know. And Miss Morrow is going to give us the pure and unadulterated funk. Now I'm going to be all technical. TC, she's the instigator. So when it gets messy and gets real juicy, TC is going to be the one to bring in some like juice. You know what I'm saying? And then of course I would like to the two two oldest people in Ohio who's doing much for the Black hair industry to keep the legacy alive. That would be Mr. Leroy Sharp, who says, hello. Yes, you probably heard that word. Name before, Mr. Marvin Gentry. Yes, those two gentlemen. Yes, 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 yes. She's giving a thumbs up. So, you know, Tisa, you got a name drop in the interview. You know what I'm saying? You got to name
You have to.
name drop. So, Mr. Leroy Sharp is still alive and kicking it here in Ohio. Mr. Marvin Gentry definitely helped me get to Africa. And then JT Bailey. A lot of people don't know, but they are Ohio's oldest Black-owned beauty supply store. So I know a lot of us keep running to the corner beauty supply store to buy our hair care products, but I'm telling y'all, pour the money back into your own Black beauty businesses. And JT Bailey is one of the oldest, and I know Mr. Morrow is definitely the reason why I even got my pick. JT Bailey and them still, you know, still pick at. Y'all better get y'all pick, okay? So Mr. Bailey still is Mr. Bailey is still doing their thing up in Warrensville Heights. So let's get it started. You got anything you want to bring to this situation before we get ready to just take that deep dive? I see some people popping up in the chat. So I hope you guys get ready. We got an hour, a little bit, maybe an hour plus. So we have 4 parts. So this is part 1. And TC, you want to anything you want to add before we just get into it?
Yeah, so definitely I'm excited. We have just an opening, like a little brief montage here before we get started with the interview. And so I am going to play. Just give me a second here. Yes. So yeah, let me get the right, click the right buttons. But
Yeah, you know, it's delayed on live, so we're good.
okay. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Can you see it? Can you see my screen?
Let me see down.
Uh-oh. Okay. I just All right, technical difficulties.
All right.
I'm getting an error here. I don't know. Do we want to?
Oh, just skip it.
She like, don't add.
Like,
All right. So
no.
if it pops up, or if you see a way to pop it up as we're going to get it started,
Okay.
you could just go ahead on and say, hey, we've got this video that's going to come through. And I was just looking at the bottom to see if I could, but my thing is not moving up. All right, so let's go ahead on and let's hop right into the interview. So what I want to do is I want to give you guys a little backdrop. I know some of you are probably wondering, how did you get to the point of actually wanting to interview Miss Cheryl Morrow? Now, you know, in my dream world, I was going to talk to Dr. Morrow. I just want to keep it 100. I'm like, I'm about to call him up. All right, I'm about to find him. So you know us new school. You know, we just gonna get online. Then we just gonna find Dr. Morrow's phone number. It don't work that way. It doesn't work that way, people. And so what had happened was I did a TikTok video where I did the Carefree Curl service on the customer. And someone came in, to make a long story short, her grandmother told her that she needed to check out the Jeri Curl, the Carefree Curl, instead of going to this hair salon. And it's called Gina Curl. It's no big secret. I'm not bashing Gina Curl. So Gina Curl is offered in New Haven, Connecticut at a salon. And so the Gina Curl looks an awful lot like the Jeri Curl. And so I went online to check out the Gina Curl. The name of the salon is called Hair's Talent. And so Gina Rivera is a magnificent Hispanic sister, and she is doing wonderful things up in New Haven, Connecticut. And again, the name of her salon is Hair's Talent. And so as I'm reading about her, I click on this article, and the article says that Miss Gina is saving the textured hair heads of thousands of women across the United States with her new service called the Jeri Curl. So I'm reading ferociously. I'm waiting for Dr. Morrow's name to pop up, at least to say as inspired by. But there was no mention of Dr. Morrow. Now, we're not saying that her service is something unique or different. I'm definitely not going to say that because I don't know her service, but I know what it looks like. And I know lookership is, it's questionable, especially on the internet. But I'm telling you guys, it looks an awful lot like the California Curl. And so I was infuriated because I said, why does this keep happening? Why do they keep taking Black history away from Black people? Now, again, I must say that Miss Rivera is not responsible for what people write about her, and journalists have a right to tell their story any way they want. So I tried to find Dr. Willie Morrow because I'm like, I don't know. So I saw the daughter. And then my friend in Baltimore, her name is Azalee Fisher. We call her Yak. She says, oh, that's my girl. This is my girl. Come on. So I inboxed her because I couldn't wait for the number. I was so upset. And I wrote this long sonnet. And I just said, I know you've heard this story 1,000 times. I hope I'm not offending you, but I won't let this happen. So without further ado, I'm introducing you the one and only, the daughter, the heiress to the California Curl Company, Dr. Willie Morrow's daughter, Cheryl Morrow, to give us the history so that we can save our history, promote our history, because we do. I went to this barber college, and you know what? Not one barber knew who your father was. Not, and it was predominantly an African American barber college, and so that just means we need to talk to you. So we have our questions ready. So before we get into the deep dive, tell everybody from the horse's mouth, because they don't believe that you know. So tell them who you are, and then we're going to, TC, you're going to go with the first question, and so we're going to set it up. So just tell us who you are.
Well, first of all, hello, beauty world. Thank you, LaDosha and TC, for looking out for Black history and seeking me out. And kudos to you guys. And it's going to be a bumpy ride. Probably it'll be enlightening. It all started with, I was doing a lecture, and I'm a mathematician, and I love numbers, and I love business and all of that stuff. So I think I was talking on the subject of economics, and an obvious question came out, and she asked, what happened to all of the children of, you guys made all this money, and it was $1 billion industry, and blah 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 blah. And I couldn't answer it, excuse me, I couldn't, I didn't have an answer for her. All I could say, basically was, here I am, and I guess we don't think about, who was responsible for carrying on most of these companies. And unfortunately, one of the obvious answers is that, the mother companies sold. And so I guess because of, maybe they didn't have, and probably they weren't hairdressers, and they probably weren't barbers. And so they did not know how to carry on something that I guess they did not have a skill set for. So that is one of the reasons why I decided, because I am still active. I've been active in my, always assumed that I would be at the helm of the Haircare, but I also knew I wanted to take it into a different direction. So I only inherited my dad's passion for beauty, and also, but I also had my own entries and my own skill sets in the industry. So,
And what are those? Can you just share with us some of those skill sets?
um, I, 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 after I would probably say seventh grade on, I came to the my father's office every day after school, and I loved chemistry and I loved science and math and all that good stuff. And so I while I was in New York, I went to New York to live in about 1990 and stayed there until 2010. I am the only world's cosmetic trichologist, not just a trichologist. It's different. And so that's a whole nother discipline. And it only pertains to dominant textures. I don't usually say textured hair care or natural hair care. I don't really. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel. We're
and
gonna get
so,
there. We're gonna get
yeah,
there.
yeah, and I just wanted to deal with Afro textured hair and in its conditions and disorders. I didn't want to deal with straight hair and any. I didn't want to get into all of that because once you do, once you talk about Afro textures, you cover everybody else's hair. The problem is when you deal with straight hair, it doesn't cover everybody else going back,
Exactly.
the other way. So I wanted to make sure that I did that. I love the marketing and branding, and so just interested in the incubator, teaching the executive skill sets in brand development. Have some interesting stories about those, and with some hair care lines that are pretty much flat and defunct at this point because they didn't, follow the recipe. But in the defense of most people, like the Jeri Curl founder, they don't know, and maybe that is my fault, or others like me. And the Madam C.J. Walker story keeps getting told wrong, and so it kind of lands us with me with TC and Ladosha. So
Okay. 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 Okay.
telling it right,
That's right. So we want to clear this up. So now we understand that to be honest, you have actually already began the process of taking your father's legacy to the next level. And so I'm just like, if you remember, I forgot the underdog. He was coming to save the day. So I'm hanging on to the coat. So I can get. They don't know who underdog is, so they probably like, who's underdog? But anywho, so he came to save the day. So here you are, carrying forth the legacy. And so what we have in part one, so there's a 4-part series we want everyone to understand. We're going to be doing this for the next 4 Sundays. And so the first part of the interview series, it really begins like how this all got started. And so again, to some people who are just coming into the chat, we are with the one and only who I call the ultimate Black hair care change agent, Miss Cheryl Morrow. She is the daughter of Dr. Willie Morrow, who is the world's most premier renowned master barber. He is an inventor. He is an entrepreneur, most certainly a philanthropist, just a history maker. And so his daughter is here to begin to debunk some myths, the truth, give us the facts. So with that being said, TC, let's get into some of these interview questions. Now, if you have some questions for Miss Morrow, we do have some beauticians. I see we have OAB is in the HOUSC. So we out here in these YouTube streets, as a star and host would say. We on these Facebook corners, you know what I'm saying? And so we got some people. So OAB is in the house. So if there is something that you want to ask Miss Morrow, please just drop it in the chat and I will convey the questions to her. But TC is going to get us started in the interview. And remember, the first series is about how it all got started.
Yeah. So thank you again, Cheryl, for spending this time with us. So we are peeling back the layers and getting to know this story of your father. Dr. Willie Morrow, really the father of Black hair care, at least the industry itself. Tell us how he got started himself. He's a master barber, entrepreneur, a myriad of titles you can give him. But how did he get started exactly? Yeah, tell us that story.
Um, from how I was told the story over and over and over again, but I will remember 2003. Um, my grandfather had passed, and we buried him in Alabama, um, Greene County, right, little outside, I think, of Tuscaloosa. And I remember we were driving by, just after all the festivities and all that, the funeral and everything. And of course, my father just drove. It was just me and him driving around, right? And so he took a turn driving by one of his cousin's original house, and then he took a sharp left onto this big property. And I didn't know. I was just for the ride. And he went to Loomis Morrow. And so I didn't know anything. And my dad started talking to him. And then all of a sudden, he started fiddling kind of like with his hands. And Loomis could have been more, probably about 92 at that time, right?
Oh,
So, and I says, Dad, like, why are you messing with his hands? And he said, oh, this is the man that taught me how to cut hair. And I'm like,
okay.
well, why did you could have started, the conversation like that. But if I didn't ask, but Mr. Morrow, in terms of just the very start, and I won't go back that far, but Mr. Morrow, there's a story when he went back home and he got his PhD, and the woman that gave him the PhD was I think the president of Dillard University, and they started the story by saying from kindergarten, TC and LaDosha, from kindergarten, they said, because she was his classmate, they asked him what he wanted to be, and he said a barber. And he didn't want to be a fireman or a doctor. He didn't want to be none of those. He wanted to be a straight barber. And I guess from there, Mr. Morrow, out of all the things in his career, barbering was his most in terms of mastery. And what that did was when he came out to San Diego, I think about 17 or 18 years old, his uncle, Uncle Spurgeon Morrow, was a high ranking in the military. So, but my father wasn't in the military, but they wanted to they had a contract, and they said black men in the Netherlands, in Tunisia, and Turkey, and Philippines, and Europe, and all these places could not get groomed, and so you had these military personnel that were full haired and full and no one knew how to handle it. But anyway, they asked Mr. Morrow, out of 200, I think 10 candidates for this contract, this 5-year contract, right? And they asked him, what makes you so special? He says, I'm going to teach you how to cut black people's hair. I'm going to teach you how to respect it. I'm going to teach you how to deal with black men's skin. And I'm going to teach you how to shave black men. And I'm going to teach you how to respect it. And, they were like, whoa. And after he told them, and then so I think one of the generals said, how are you going to stop, ingrown hair on a black man's skin? It's so difficult. My father said, well, do you get ingrown hairs in their mustache? And they said, no. Do you get ingrown hairs in your sideburn? They said, no. Do you get it in your goatee? No. He said, so black skin is not the problem. You're the problem. And when he said that, everybody was like, wow, this is a smart black man, So they gave the contract to him, and the rest is history. He's always been such a black hair, black skin genius. I mean,
Wow.
and he's like the George Washington Carver of black people's hair and skin. I mean, he just completely was just, and even one general asked him, why would you study something like, like Negro hair? And Mr. Morrow said, I'm black. I'm not white. You study you, I study me. It was just that kind of candor just completely made him a pioneer, of his time.
Wow.
So he never
That
dealt with beauty from any other perspective but from Afro.
Now, that is one profound example. The one thing I want people to take away from the interview are like when I did some research about you, you have such a way with words and using the English vocabulary to take our understanding of concepts. I think of your word entrepreneur, your comments about your father's position about our role, in Black communities. And in this example that you just gave, with your father saying to the general, questioning him those three questions about hair, and then posing the problem, with all due respect, but factually. And this is what we want to bring to you guys with this interview. This is not your stereotypical, we don't want her to retell the same story that some of you guys may have already seen, online and right here on YouTube. But right here on this platform with Miss Morrow, we want you guys to be able to, to capture and hear exactly what she's saying, which is so, it's profound. When I went to Africa, one thing that I would say that made sense was excellence. When I was growing up, my mother, I thought she was like, damn, you tripping on this excellence thing. But when I went to Africa, it all made sense. And when I hear your statement that you just said, it all makes sense. And we have nothing to be ashamed of.
Absolutely.
So, TC, was it something else you wanted to expound upon that first question before we go on to the next one?
Well, I know that when we're talking about the genesis of all this and this entire legacy, it was more than just. Well, also, it's really interesting that the U.S. military organization had no one that knew how to groom black hair, and then I wonder, what about the soldiers or the personnel themselves? I mean, what, did they just not have tools, or did they not know themselves, the actual black military people that needed the grooming?
Now you have to remember, anywhere outside of the continent of Africa, grooming was not, it didn't mean the same thing as it meant to us. Grooming was not just hygienic. For the rest of the world, it was just mainly hygienic. It was just something to do, just to be able to. Europe's, it has a very fascinating connection. It's the interconnection of beautifying oneself is not the same way. It's spiritual, it's cultural, it's ancestral. It's about our alignment with environment and being, symbiotic with it. Being in tune with it. That's not their relationship. Their relationship is just ugh. It's like just being clean, or it's just being what they call undiseased. It's not. They don't have a until the colonial period of going to and sailing to other places and seeing. Now it's very late 17th, maybe 18th century where Europe even has a hygienic history. They don't have one, and you don't even want to know about it. Actually, it's not.
Oh no,
Pretty
yeah, but we do.
But
before we go to the next seat,
so,
yeah, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but we do. And this is what this interview is all about. And this is why we asked you, deliberately for an hour and a half of your time. Because when we say in the beginning, we're not necessarily talking about, the beginning like our viewers might think they have. And it's not about the shock factor, like you said, it's a history. And though I know it's probably too complex for you to go into before we, move into the next question. And the reason why I'm doing this because I can see TC's expressions during your response to the first question. I can't see the viewers' facial responses, but I see we are definitely starting to get more people into the chat, and so we need to, take advantage. And I hate to use the words capitalize on your intelligence, but we need you to share. I know, and just give us a few sentences about, because I want to know what you mean
Well,
when you
well,
say they didn't have hygiene. Come on, just give it to us.
That's to answer her question in terms of, so their skill set in terms of even trying to approach anything of African descent, they were very forward about just saying we don't know. The military industrial complex was very progressive in saying, hey, we don't know, let's get somebody black. I mean, when do they ever do that? That's not a lot of times they do that. But getting an expert at that time called named Willie Morrow, he understood their limitations and our experience with cutting livestock. We have not just from grooming our livestock, but we also groomed it on the plantation. So with that skill set, and then with our own beautifying and adornment skill sets, hey, our and I think that other races of people just probably just give us that. They know that we're probably very high art in that regard.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, what I would like to know as we progress through the interview, is that as I hear you talk about your father's very poignant and definitely a lot of poise and confidence to be able to assist, all African Americans at this point in the military. Um, where where did his drive? I mean, I read so much, but we're not getting the backdrop to the excellence, because in the beauty industry now everything is lookership. So we have the OAB in the house. Ephraim Abdullah, what's up? I see you in the chat. We got Leah Love from the OAB, the Akron chapter. Dr. Leah Love is in the chat. And so share with us, because these are the people who are definitely, from the beauty industry. Where did his drive come from to do and create more? Because he never stopped. And before you answer that, let me just tell you what he never stopped. He has the pick, he has the California curl, he has the thermal nozzle, he has a radio show. So tell us, where is the drive for excellence to do and to create so much more? How did you see that in your father?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, he always said, a success leaves clues. And when you follow S.B. Fuller, Anthony Overton, when you're following Marjorie Joyner, when you're following, and you only have an example, and back in maybe the 40s and 50s, I mean, the thing to do was to do as your ancestor did, and to take that to the next level. And I will be able to say he did that, but I also think it was his experience. My great grandparents and grandparents were sharecroppers, and one of the things that most people don't realize, that the plantation for the enslaved was also a university. You you honed a lot of skills: distilling, chemistry, agriculture, horticulture. You learned that there was a full package of a university of skill sets, especially dealing with the land. So his chemistry is a high school education, but his Advanced PhD was plantation. That's where you learned soil science. That's where you learned liquor and distilling and fermentation. So his chemistry was on point, you know. And
And
his,
so
yeah.
and so what you're saying is he never felt some kind of way about his humble beginnings. We have a teacher, a cosmetology teacher and director of a high school in East Cleveland, Ohio. Her name is Denise West, and she's in the chat. And so, and I'm from the hood. TC, I don't know where you from. TC, where you from? I'm definitely from the hood, and so what those humble beginnings, we always kind of want to shy from that. But I just heard you say that he took his knowledge
Mhm.
from working and used that. Can you just, and this is for you, Miss West, for the students. Big ups to Shaw High School Cosmetology Program. We got their instructor, director in the chat. Uh, Talk a little bit more about that humble beginning and how can they use that? How can we not? Because I know sometimes I struggle with my ebonics. So help us out with that.
Well, I mean, let's just be real. One of the things that for Mr. was important for Mr. Morrow to teach me was texture in your cream. If you're going to make a relaxer, you're going to make a conditioner. If you're going to make anything, it had the texture had to be appropriate. Well, where would he learn that? And that is in butter making. So he did not need to have a college education in beauty chemistry to teach or to have the skill of creating some of the most luxurious conditioners, like really moisturizing and hydrating. And the way he taught it was from the way his mother taught him how to make buttermilk and butter. I mean, that sounds so strange, but
Yeah. It
yeah.
sounds it sounds extremely strange. Now, the funny thing is that I am a Formisi certified master colorist, and had it not been for Olive Benson, I'm telling
Uh,
y'all, everybody talks about my hair color, why it is. I'm sure you can see the influence of
yeah.
Olive Benson. If you Google Olive Benson, you'll go, you copycat. But I'm living her legacy. This woman, oh my gosh, that's a whole nother conversation. But when we talk about being colorist, one of the things that she said, because I said, I don't know if I could be a colorist. And she said, can you cook? And I said, yeah. She said, then you can color. And
That's
so
right.
that just kind
That's
of,
right.
I could hear her spirit when you made the comment about him, using his skill,
Absolutely.
and so I didn't
Absolutely.
understand that. And I still haven't. But now that you've said it, Olive Benson
That's
is
right.
coming
Well,
in full
that's
circle
why
at
I
this moment.
right. That's why I call the my docu series Heirloom. We are all heirs. We are not hustlers. We didn't come here starting from nothing. We don't have to press the reset button. All we have to do is look back and pick it up. Now, if we want to be busy being ashamed of it, that's one thing. But I pick it up and I take that and I step on that. That's why I call myself an intrapreneur and not an entrepreneur. I'm not starting from scratch. I'm
Can
black. I
you
don't have to.
now expand on entrepreneur? I saw that and I was like, this sister, she better than Michael Jackson, But I want to break down, and I want you guys to get your ink pens ready. I'm gonna save this so you guys can come back and watch it again. And TC is having a little technical difficulty. She's gonna come back in. But can you break down entrepreneur? I know I've got the ticker, where it can read out, the what you're saying, but expound on not entrepreneur, not entrepreneur Negroes, okay? But entrepreneur, and this is for everyone.
Yeah.
What is that?
That is how I chose to function in my father's company. And when I do brand development and I teach it from a executive perspective, I always ask the business person, who are you going to be? Not who you want to be, but from your skill set, your own personal, how you approach life, and how you absorb information and how you process information. And I am a the kind of thinker that takes what's already there and take it, reform it, and and create and reimagine it. And I take what's already been there. And I know that that is very easy from people saying, well, it's easy for you to be an entrepreneur. But let me say this: I actually think that entrepreneurship is much more appropriate for where Black America is. There's always someone that's always doing something that's pretty good. They just need your help, your energy, and that is much more conducive for a crowd sharing or information sharing, or it's just much more of an ethos of it's just a lot of Black synergy, Afrocentric synergy on us being intrapreneurs and being able to see what's already there. Entrepreneurs, I'm not a serial entrepreneur. Martha Stewart, not an entrepreneur. Most people think that just because people are in business, they're entrepreneurs. No, an entrepreneur is a person who's really a madman. They like to start stuff, then they sell it, and then they're out. Then they do something again, then they're out. That's a true entrepreneur. And I just wanted to make sure that I tell people I am much more a get in, find what's there, find that's not what's doing well, improve it, and increase the sales, and reform it and reimagine it. That's just how I function.
Oh man, I'm writing this down. I'm writing this down because now I don't feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
When I work behind the chair, I'm very passionate, and I'm really Tony. I think it was Tony, or no, it was Raphael Sadiq had a song called "Get Involved."
Yes.
And he was like, I don't care.
Lucy Pearl.
Lucy Pearl, yes, just get involved. And so it was like, get into it. To me, when you are living your passion, my aunt is all up in the chat. What's up, Auntie M? And my aunt is steady saying, that's what I am. That's what I am. And it's funny because in the home, we are taught to go within, though we don't use the term your dad used, which was success leaves clues. I know Jim Collins has a book called Good to Great, and he talks about success leaves clues. That's a great book, by the way. But in your entrepreneur, where you're talking about, get in, find some solutions and then reform it, I kind of feel like, that's what I'm doing. And I know my aunt, Mary, that's in the chat, she was exactly the same way in bringing me up as my aunt Kiwanis, my aunt Muzel. We had these people pouring into us. But when you get out into the real world, they tell you not to do that. And then here you are saying, no, you want to do that. You want to stay in. It's always like everybody builds the brand to sell it. And I don't, because, I don't feel that way, but I was aspiring to do that up until you just gave the example of entrepreneur.
Well, they tell you not to do it. Yeah, they tell you not to do it. They do it. But they tell, people of color and, Black people to not do it. But I think that is the best of us. That's where our strength is. And I think that, it's nothing noble to have to come up with your own idea. There's nothing noble about that. What is noble is to get to hear a good idea, and if one of your people have it, you get in and make it even more successful with more energy, more resources, more capacity. That is, to me, the quickest way from an idea all the way to the bank.
So on that note, do you think it's a such thing that is played out then? Can it get tired? I mean, like, how long, can we do this entrepreneur? So do you think something just like, oh, that's so old fashioned, Cheryl, like what you're talking about? Like, can it be that way?
Can it be what way?
Old fashioned. So if we stay on in the spirit of entrepreneur, I think it would be interpreted as, we're being old fashioned to do that. So, and I know in your explanation of it, you have get in, find a solution and reform it. So
Well,
where
yeah, we have to use another muscle, and that's our collective muscle, which is very weak. Our individual success is, well, we can do that in our sleep. But can we do it with three or more, and four and five, and be able to do what Apple did? Apple is not a mono kind of business model. It's not mono. It's very group oriented. It start like, you always hear about, the early millionaires of somebody. That's because there was several dozen of people at the start of companies. And why is that? And why do we feel we have to do it alone and do all the heavy lifting? And by the time the launch of a company, somebody is sick or died, or because it's hard work, it's heavy lifting, and we just need to be able to practice the collective, and we don't have to know it all. Not one person has to be. We don't necessarily, it's just not sustainable, especially
okay.
in today's market.
All right. Okay. So we are here again. If some of you guys are just tuning in, TC, can you mute your mic? I think we hear you kind of getting a little busy over there.
He's trying to.
Yeah, yeah, just mute it so that way we don't hear your. There we go. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. So again, so we are with Cheryl Morrow, and she is giving us the very humble beginnings of how it all got started. But I hope you guys are definitely coming to the conclusion that how it all got started isn't your typical way of how we think something got started. She has already, told us the passion coming from excellence, definitely using his background that had nothing to do with hair, but use it to help bring about the science of hair, the poise, the excellence, the confidence that he used to address the United States military and be able to train and educate. So before we go into the last question, TC, I know you kind of hopped out there for a minute. Was it something else that you wanted to ask before we go into the third question? Oh, you're still on mute. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's
No,
okay.
I'll jump in during this last part.
Good. Better late
Yeah.
than never.
Okay. All right. Okay. So did you have a question for us or?
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
see. Sorry, let me get everything. All right. So we started. Well, you started to talk about the amount of money that this industry has generated. Hopefully, I'm still there. The
Yeah,
amount
you
of
are.
money that the black hair industry has generated, and I think at the top of our program, you mentioned someone asking what happened to all the children of the uh, progenitors, of the industry, the generators, the original, imagineers, if you will. What happened to all the kids? But, so we want to ask that question on top of what did happen to all of the millions and billions that were made. Did it go to the families? Did it go into more companies that we may be less familiar with? What's the situation there?
I think it went to the families. I think it went to the families. I think the Comer Cottrells, the Dudleys, the Broners, the McBrides, and people, and their other companies, and the Whites, and there's so many family. There may be about 7 families there that really were had the monopoly of black hair care success during um, the the 80s and the mid early 2000 season. um, I think what happened was, by the time Revlon was boycotted by African Americans in this country, um, and the CEO at that time predicted that we would lose 99.9% of them, which is basically all of them. They would be swallowed up and consumed. That was a prediction. Um, but there was a second half to that prediction, which is like a whole nother story. But the key here is that I don't believe that the passion for the industry very early on. I don't, the Bronner boys are a lot older than me and my brother at that time. I think the Dudley daughter, and Johnson, which is John Johnson, which is Ebony and Jet. I think me and her are basically the same age. I think Terry Gardner, Saul Sheen, we're basically the same age. And the Comer Contrell's daughter, maybe a little older than I am. But I think when your company gets acquired, they throw all your stuff away. And I think that because California Curl was just not sellable, only because it was a technology company. Mr. Morrow was an education technology company, and I can probably sell but if I were to be able to, sell or anything like that, I would be selling some of the assets, some of the molds, some of the formulations. I don't necessarily have to be swallowed up and acquired. Does that make sense? Because we're not a brand company. It was more of a technology. Even though he had his own brands, he had the Ocean, he had the Dry, Ocean Wave, and Willie Morrow signature line for Sally Beauty Supply Company, which did extremely well. He wasn't just a brand; he was a technology company, and I think that they had. When you go through a merge and you go through an acquisition, it's very hard, I guess, to stay. And let me just say this: one Gardner did go on to elevate. He did Root Stimulator.
Okay.
The whole era of carrots and olive oil. I think he did go into the next ownership, and that was a Gardner son. But we don't have a track record besides myself or the Root Stimulator, and I don't know how active they are now. But we don't have a legacy like the great granddaughter and the granddaughter, like Estee Lauder, like Mac and Origins. Those are generational brands, and I think it's just very hard after acquisition.
So from the outside looking in, it looks like when we talk about the billions that were lost, it looks like Johnsons and Johnsons and Soft Sheen was like the everything. I was trying to find a gentleman who did a documentary on that, and he kind of spoke to L'Oreal being primarily responsible for the fall of the black hair industry. Now, I don't know if you can confirm his story. I'm going to see if I can find his name when you give the answer. But according to him, when the relaxer became household, apparently there was no warning that about the allergic reactions, and so L'Oreal kind of went to the FDA and was like, "Yo, Carson and them, Ultra Sheen and them, they're making this relaxer and it doesn't have a warning, and that's against the law, or it should be against the law." And the FDA said, "You know what? Okay, take them off." And so they had to halt because they had all these products out in the stores that did not have this warning label. So while the companies were trying to get the warning labels, L'Oreal, now this is his story, came out with the Revlon, relaxer, and that began to fall. What do you recall? And I'm not saying it's true. I'm not,
Well, let me just say this, and let me see if this makes sense. And I'm sure some of your cosmetologists that's in the chat would understand. If I put a relaxer on my legs, under my arms, or chest to remove hair, what would it be called?
A depilatory cream.
So does a depilatory have a warning? That just doesn't have a ring of truth to it, and so I don't believe the story. Um,
Okay.
and let's just go here. And because relaxer is still cosmetic and it still has temporary effects, I don't see the FDA getting into that.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay. Yes.
Let me just say this. And if you don't get anything with me, Ladosha and TC, you don't get anything. You're going to get a critical analysis and some logic, you know. And I am very, and so what I'm saying is that it's a little weird.
Yeah. So the name of his documentary is called No Lie.
Yes.
It's okay. Yeah. And so
I'm
he
back,
kind of
yeah, I'm very familiar with the filmmaker. He did,
okay.
we did speak a couple of times, even
Okay.
though I definitely disagree with that
Okay, yes. I may have it a little mixed up there a little bit, but but
one.
I think that was pretty much the gist of it. That somehow they had to pull all of these relaxers off the market, and L'Oreal kind of seized the opportunity,
Yeah.
and that that kind of like that took our billions. But you're saying that we have some other things to consider when we talk about the loss of,
And
potential
let me,
or
and let me, and let me just say this: the black hair care as an industrial complex is wired through the salon, and because of the issues with the loyalty of keeping the division between a professional rank and a consumer rank is probably one of the most damaging facets that begin to eat up some of the foundation of the industrial complex we call black hair care. Black hair care is not built through the OTC market, not Target, not Walmart. That is one of the reasons why it's very hard for those brands to sustain without a professional um, kind of partner. And because natural hair care divided the cosmetology field, it kind of isolated it, kind of marginalized it. It's to be able to fix it, you're going to have to be an economic business model genius, or to at least have some kind of historical kind of economic skill set to be able to compartmentalize and know where the issues are. So, and the hairdressers, because I'm a hairstylist, but the hairstylist is pivotal and vital, peril, vital to the health of black hair care. And they have to be given, things have got to, be reset.
now what do you mean reset?
Well, the technology and innovation must be created in a way, reintroduced in a way to where you are creating a professional first, and then as a separate, and then you have your consumer retail market. They don't ever come together, you know. And if you don't have a separate, healthy salon industry, then you don't have a separation of ranks, which means that if anyone can get Viagra or can get a high blood pressure pill or a contraceptive without a doctor, well, you kind of dismantle the medical field.
I
And
see.
so, and then too, when problems and disorders and hair loss and things of other things come into play, what are you going to do? Give it to the dermatologist? They don't know they don't want it. They don't know what to do. So you're not feeding the real true artistry of the cosmetology field. And so when you have it very fragmented, you don't know, you can't, I mean, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Activator was the core of $1 billion industry, but the cold wave cream was the holy grail because you had to get that and give that to fuel the richness of the salon and the career. The occupation was rich. you could go from zero to hero and getting your license in a matter of 6 months. You'll be able to feed your family and put some money away. But that is of no more. So
Wow.
everyone's going straight to Target and straight to Walmart. But who does that serve? It doesn't serve the industrial complex, is what I'm saying.
I'm speechless. What about you, TC?
Yeah, I think that is man, it's super interesting and enlightening when you take when you're talking about that professional aspect. Who when you're taking that out and putting the product strictly in the retail space, like you said, OTC, over the counter, and individuals like me going to shop for those products, I don't really know what I'm looking for. You know, I see a nice looking package. There's a black woman on there that looks like me. I assume it's going to work for my hair. You know, without that education and that professionalism, that's where you have a lot of the hair don'ts and the mistakes and the gorilla glue and all types of stuff. The blue hair, you know. Uh, So that's where we run into issues. So that really sticks out for me, in what you said.
Yeah,
And I know.
I agree that the education is key, but what do you think about the push now? As we we go through the interview. We got the beginning, we got his passion, his drive. We have what happened, to the billions, and now, based off of your response, the critical role that the cosmetology or the beauty salon is playing. We see two shifts taking place in the industry. One, the lowering the standards of education in cosmetology, and now you have everybody wants to go into to the private spaces. So
And I'm feeling, every at least once or twice a month, I've got about 4 brands I'm dealing with, and when and by the time I got to brands, or advising on brands like Carol's Daughter, or even wanting to help, adjust Miss Jessie's. These are people who, and let me just say this is not an insult.
yes.
I do understand that being black and wanting to be in the hair business is very attractive. The key is that that's to say that, the business of Estee Lauder is 5 generations thick, and they're coming to the game of beauty business with the sharpest swords they can. And when by the time we get in it, we're thinking that either we have a skill at hairdressing, or we're passionate because we're black and we want to do this. Unfortunately, that is not enough. And so one of my greatest, to the point where I think this is my legacy, is to teach beauty business at the low, mid, and the highest acumen of dealing with great brand, becoming great CEOs of beauty business, understanding the history and the finance and marketing and branding and advertising, public, whatever it is, into understanding labeling, packaging, just all the whole nine, science, how to do case studies, formulation, chemistry, and the whole STEM and STEAM gamut. But there is no place for us to do that. And so, to me, let me just say this: to watch influencers make millions of dollars while hairstylists are starving, nah, I
Wow.
can't. That's unacceptable. What industry does that happen? Where you can
So
just be a novice and just be an influencer, and then all of a sudden you're trying stuff on your hair, and with no real professional kind of savvy education, and you're talking to the public, and it's
so
unfortunate.
so we still have hairstylists, we still have hair educators in the chat. So what can you say, including me? You know what I'm saying? What can you say to us about the education? Is this something do we continue to push for the education? Do we create something on our own and build it, or is this just the way it is? I mean, you don't
No, it
have.
ain't. It's not the way it is. And let me just say this: I split it in three. You have your beauty school student, and they're 1 to 2 years in their career. And then you've got the 5 to 7, and then you've got the ones who are being in there from 15, right, to 20 years or more, like Mr. Sharp and the ones you just mentioned.
Yeah,
You know, there are certain elevation things that we can do for those particular three. And I believe that it's not just education. As my grandmother would say, practice doesn't make perfect. The right practice makes perfect. And if we could get those particular three groups into, let's say your 7 to 8 years, your 10 years, maybe they want to do publishing, they want to do magazines, they want to become an expert, they want to be able to speak, or they want to be able to be an expert in something specialized. There must be an education system that supplies the evolution of the occupation, not just education on chemistry. But Ladosha, if you don't know how to make something into a formula to where it's scalable, which was Curl's daughter's problem, one of their issues. But once you begin to have an incubator or an educational program to where it addresses these elevations for wonderful hairstylists like yourself, you're so experienced, but when you want to elevate, what do you elevate? You elevate into your own brand, which is obvious. Or do you elevate into a beauty media mogul where you're supplying great digital books and whatever the case may be? There should be an educational system for that.
Okay, so we see the legacy of your father definitely going into what Uncle call us space age Africans, right? So
Oh,
you've
definitely.
answered. So you've answered the flip side, the side of the coin for the professionals. So we do have some consumers in the chat who are consumers of hair care products as well as the beauty and barber, salons. So what about them? Um,
Okay.
how do you speak to the consumers? Because one of the problems that I've always saw, my background is in social science. I'm an outreach worker. So even though I've been doing the beauty industry for 20 years, I still feel like I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Um, uh, and the reason why, and maybe you can help clear this up to the people who are still watching in the chat. I've always felt like the beauty salon stylists and the customers, at least in the black hair industry, are one, because the big companies are selling both to the cost. So you have L'Oreal, who has over the counter, and they have professional. So what is the consumer to do? I mean, how to your point of education and the evolution, how do you speak to the consumer from your position?
From as a professional in a
Yeah, like
media.
a chemist, the entrepreneur, the hair to the California curl. How do you speak to the consumer who's watching? What should they be looking for? Because the aisles still say ethnic. They still say hair care. TC Lewis just said, I have a hairstylist, but I'm not, I still go to the beauty supply stores. How do you speak to the people? Because we have more everyday people in the chat than we
Yeah.
do, hairstylists. So,
I, I, the consumer, because of the natural hair care movement, the the lingo, the lexicon, the vocabulary um, has been lowered, and so now the cosmetology dictionary and though all the words pretty much now are in the everyday conversation of everybody. Um, One of the things that I would like the industry to do better for the consumer is to create the trends for them and not wait for them to think of, you know, things on their own because of either problem solving or something being difficult. I wish that the industry would have more leadership. Now, as far as the beauty aisle, the beauty aisle is, and I know is convoluted because, of course, everybody, um, you know, white America owns the Black Beauty Incubator. So it's very hard for us to peel off a section of conversation, private conversation, with the consumer because they're so consumed, they're over consumed with
Mm.
messages that and myth. I think that we probably have to come back and just deal with myth in some of their questions. But what they think is true, they're not experiencing at home. And I think by the time they get home and it's not working or something is weird or they have a question. So I think that the first thing that we can do is be a have more question periods like this, TC and Lodosha. I mean, to have more so they can know that the cosmetology field, professional stylists are here to answer their concerns, answer their questions, make very strong suggestions because, like TC mentioned, before that happens, they've already had about 4 or 5 don'ts.
Well,
They've already had.
I'm gonna get a little controversial now. I'm gonna get a little controversial now. But now you got the hairstylists who don't want to share the secrets. So you two
Well, they're not
came in
secret.
and said, you know what? We're gonna teach you how to do your hair because hairstylists aren't telling the secrets. I know we got about 10 minutes, 15 more minutes into the interview before we wrap it up. So
I don't know. I don't
it's
know
getting
if
a
they
little messy
secrets.
here. It's getting a little messy here. So what about, I mean, they're saying, well, you're saying listen to the cosmetologist, but the consumers like cosmetologists don't talk to us, so we're going to YouTube. Forget y'all, forget you. So what? How are you? Help the people
Well,
out. They're
well, well, well.
listening.
One of the things
Can
that
they go on YouTube and learn how to do their own hair?
Here's the thing. Professionals, consummate professionals like yourself, Ladosha, knows one thing. We have to have better chair side manners. And I don't care what is hurting. If it is hurting to the point where it is out of our wheelhouse, we're going to the doctor. That's not the point. Doctor doesn't say I'm gonna uninform you with disinformation, misinformation, so you have to come back to me. That's ludicrous. And I have to agree with consumers on that the cosmetology field has got to get a little more self-esteem, collective self-esteem. We're gonna have to be able to heighten and elevate our education so it can be at a professional level to where they would come back and have a conversation with us. Plus, no one teaches a hairstylist to have a consultation in beauty school. No one teaches us that.
Mm.
And so the power of the consultation is to lead the customer, to lead the client, to be able to support the consumer and to tell them and with their security in our level of knowledge, our level of experience, and our level of knowledge in what they're either suffering from or they are, regardless if it's, we're supposed to work with endocrinologists and dermatologists. We are, or gynecologists. We are the person who is leading. But I don't think that kind of leadership has been supported. I don't think that is taught. Um,
Okay.
and and see, and that is the next legacy of, I feel compelled to teach it because, you know,
It's funny you should mention that because as I, represent La Barberia, a little T-shirt here. When I spoke to the students, the barber students, and I asked them after I gave them your father's rich history, I asked them, what legacy would you like to leave behind, and what inventions, what would you like to see happen, in the world of beauty and barbering. And to your point of consultation, one of the students, he mentioned if there could be, for lack of better words, like a universal triage. that all the entire beauty and barber industry could have to do exactly what you're saying, which is a professional consultation to set the tone. And I did charge the students at La Barberia, him specifically, to maybe begin the process of a beauty and barber triage that would be standard across the beauty and barber industry, thus giving us, I don't want to, control isn't a good word, but just the ability to guide the customer, into their home hair care regimen. I know at my salon, you can't visit without a consultation. And we have people who like, well, I don't want to get my hair done. Because they don't want the consultation, and we put your hair under a microscope. So, and we have a form that you have to fill out. You have to watch this video, and some people are like, nah, this is not the place for me. So we respectfully say, okay. But so to those of you who are listening to the consumer, Cheryl Morrow is saying, the consultation is key. And I know some of you are wondering, what can you walk away from the interview with, in addition to the history? We now know that one of the things that you can look for in a professional is that consultation, because as she pointed out, it definitely sets the tone for your personal hair care experience, because she's already taught us that the stores and the advertising, to TC's point, it can be confusing because say it again. Why is that advertising confusing?
And let me just say this: the consultation, my wonderful retail sweethearts in the chat, it is not just for you to gain information. It is for the cosmetology to engage and to connect with you. It is an important conversation before any activity goes on, before they even touch your hair. It is important that the synergy between you two are compatible. It's dating, and it's the same thing as with your physician, or almost like your tailor or something. You want to make sure that they understand your energy. So if there's any takeaway, is that I think that we all are agreed that there is a lot of not just a blanket education that's needed. It is defining the education for the right person at the right time, and what is it that they need to elevate into their occupation. Because it's a gorgeous occupation. We should not be ever losing hairstylists and barbers. They should be going on to the next level. There's so much more to do in this industry.
Wow, that's monumental right there. That's very monumental. TC, anything you're adding to this as we're drawing in? What I see you're looking like, whoa, because she's dropping so much. I thank you all for staying with us in the chat. Some people are hanging on in there. This is really intense, and you are definitely giving us how it all got started. I mean, she's giving us the humble beginnings and the power of intelligence, the importance of just overall humanity and compassion, not being ashamed of your beginnings, wherever they are, humble or fancy, wherever you at. It ain't where you're from, it's definitely where you're at. Success leaving clues. TC, what are you adding to anything you want to, pick
Well,
up?
I mean, I'm excited to move through the next three conversations. We've learned so much here already in the first one, and but I think one of the key points here, in talking about the beginnings of Black hair care, or the Black hair care movement, is the whole notion of being empowered to be able to take charge, maybe not control, but take charge of not just your hair, but your livelihood as a stylist. And I liked what you said, Cheryl, about we shouldn't be losing hairstylists. There should be a place, a next level, a next step. Because when you think about other industries, education or engineering, or even athletes, basketball players, there's a next step for them. There's a plan.
Commentating, coaching,
Right, right,
endorsements. Yeah.
right. Yeah. And so how do we keep this legacy going? And we keep it going by bringing in young people, right, and
Absolutely.
training them up in the industry and in the science of it all. You know, it's not just about looking good. There's a whole back.
Inheritance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, long lines. And so I look forward to continuing to bring the information. I'm learning a lot myself because I come from it from the consumer perspective.
Hmm.
And LaDosha is definitely the professional. So I'm just excited to learn more and really excited to again meet you and really just thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Everybody in the STEM programs in your city, make sure that they connect to cosmetology, and the next Willie Morrows and Olive Bensons and Jim Williams and all of them. They're in your STEM programs and STEAM programs. Let's
wow.
smoke them out and let's get them into the industry.
Wow, that's wow. I have not. Okay, that I will definitely take that to STEM. Also, speaking of STEM, but to another level, a different level. In case you guys did not know, Dr. Willie Morrow is the largest donor of artifacts to the Textures exhibit that is located inside Kent State University Museum.
Woo!
So, what I want to share with everyone about the exhibit, I have some tickets that I'm definitely going to
Woo!
post some people up in the chat who I want to give some tickets
Hold
to.
on, let me get in the chat real quick.
Yeah, hurry up, get up in the chat. So, Ephraim Abdullah, you get a ticket. You and your guest will receive a free. I told you guys we have some giveaways. Okay, now they want to pop in. You see, now they coming in. They ain't right. I love our people. America, you gotta love Americans. Okay, so you, Ephraim, I will mail to you your very own ticket that for admits free to the Textures exhibit, and this is dedicated to the art and history of Black hair. And I must tell you, Dr. Morrow's contribution will move you to tears. It is that profound when you talk about the next level consumers. You know, she's given it to us for both. So the interview was not strictly for cosmetologists, but for consumers as well, as she has given us history. She's definitely given us some love. You know, has given us some wisdom, and so we want you guys to use it. We want you guys to be ready. Um, for us next week. And let me just pull up my little notes here. So remember, we have 4 parts. So the second part, we are going to be moving into, whoops, let me pull it back up. Sorry. We're going to talk about how do we lose this thing called Black hair care. We definitely want to talk about this natural hair movement. We want to talk about this hair mapping, the 4C. She kind of talked about it just a little when she said, that we're borrowing stuff and we're using stuff. So she's already, saying, that we're taking stuff from outside and bringing it in instead of bringing it from inside out. I know Ted Gibson. I am going to personally invite Ted Gibson. He is America's highest paid African American hair designer. I would love for him to see you, and maybe I can invite him into the chat for a quick second. He's out in California, as he talks about that a lot. Of how the beauty industry should definitely be bringing out the trends, which is why he did not want to become a celebrity a hairstylist, because he said, no, we ain't taking from them. We got to give it to them. So that was the first time I heard that. And so now you're the second. I don't know if that's a California thing. I'm not quite sure, but I kind of thought we had to get it from the streets. And now you're
Cali,
saying,
Cali,
wow.
Cali, Cali, Cali.
Oh, Cali. That means Cleveland, right, TC?
That's right.
All right, that means Cleveland, where I'm from, okay? So he spoke to that, and when I invite him, I will use your quote, and maybe he will take a few moments out, and we could just ask him to just say a few words about that. So, Ephraim, you get the first giveaway. Let's see who else. We got somebody else in the chat we want to give. And we appreciate you guys for spending this time with us. Miss Leah Love in the chat. I want to go ahead on. This is our last giveaway, and I'm going to gift you with my book, What They Don't Tell You at the Hair Salon. And I'm going to gift you with the ebook. So the ebook comes to life, and this is what Miss Morrow was talking about. We got to take these things to the next level. So the ebook, it actually it comes to life. So you'll see some videos and everything just come to life, making reading very, very interactive. So Leah Love, you are the winner of a free ebook of What They Don't Tell You at the Hair Salon. In the ticker, you are reading that you can follow Miss Morrow right here on the Facebook platform to learn more about her endeavors. And also you can download the WOVU app, because TC is the one and only Cleveland's favorite community radio talk show host. So you can download her app. And we asked Miss Morrow at the beginning before we wrap up, is there something we just must, like, we just can't forget this now? We don't want to forget this. And now when I will say this now. When I first talked to her and everything, I was so nervous. I was just, I was all over the place. And she said, I want to give you the exclusive. I was like, Gina! I had to do a laugh for Jesus. Y'all know what I'm saying? So the reason why I do a laugh for Jesus, because she shared with me that she has a documentary. So right here, we are being able to give it's official. We're putting it out there officially that she has a documentary, and I don't want to say it wrong. It's a docu-series. I'm sorry, a docu-series, and it's called Heirloom. And so you've got to tell us about the docu-series. We want y'all to get ready for this, all right? So get ready. They hitting the heart button. Thank y'all. We just thanking y'all so much. So tell them about the docu-series. See, y'all, I'm glad y'all stayed in, because now y'all got it. Go ahead, tell them about it.
Well, it's called Heirloom, and I want everyone to know that we have an incredible history, which means that we have an incredible foundation, and none of us has to start over. And Heirloom is my testament how I was given the most incredible childhood. I had a absolute fairy tale childhood. And from there, I also wanted to go into to empty and to parlay my experience into what happened in Black hair care from my home, from the going to school and going to the office every day since, second to third grade, and to be able to put those in a container that it could make great stories, and then you be able to utilize it in your own beauty endeavors, because we are all heirs. We are not hustlers. And I always tell any young man, any young woman who comes to me in terms of a lecture and they want to have any advice, heirs don't hustle. We have something. What are we going to do with it? That is the key. And that is where your skill sets begin. That's where you learn what to do and what not to do. That's when you learn your orientation and how do you position yourself so you can be in the best proximity of where you want to go. How do you get there? And that is just basically what Heirloom is.
Whoa. We have a surprise for you. We have Dr. Tamika Ellington is in the chat. And she's like, hey, y'all. So Dr. Tamika Ellington is the co-curator.
Yes, she is.
Underwood is also the curator, and they are the curators at the Texas exhibit. So, Mr. Ephraim, you got these free pass that admits 2 for free, and so we want to thank you, Dr. Ellington. I just I know you just came in. I don't know how much you've been listening, but you already have heard her say that her docu-series is coming up. So, once it's out, we going out there, Dr. Ellington. You and I, we're going to
She's
the
been here,
premiere.
right? She's been
Yeah,
here.
see, I know, but I'm coming myself. I already told her that I'm coming in February. This is my birthday gift, my Christmas gift. So, Dr. Tamika Ellington, we are so
Yes.
thankful to you. I'm tired of looking at Dr. Willie Morrow on YouTube. I'm tired of squinting on those images, but to see that in real life, because you just always wonder, like, is that really his collection? I saw the thing on YouTube where he had his own, museum. I'm like, this dude is not playing. And so when we first walked into the museum, and she has this barber pole, and she said she got it from your dad. I'm like, this man is like epic. So Dr. Tamika Ellington has done
Amazing
phenomenal.
job. Amazing.
Talking about phenomenal display of your father's artifacts. They are preserved. He would just be, oh my gosh. So Ephraim, you are going to enjoy that. Also in the chat, we have the OAB president. Her name is Miss Brenda Hosley. And I'm finally able to say officially I am a member. So Miss Hosley, we appreciate you so much. You know what? This is really turning out to be, it's always better than I expected to be. We thank you guys so much. And Miss Hosley, she was so excited that we were doing this interview with you. She has pictures of your father. I mean, she was just going on and on, all the stuff I wish that I could have. But we are so honored. We are very privileged. And I'm telling you that I am on the shoulders of your father. I am from his lineage somehow, some way, and I am definitely going to do right. Remember that? I'm going to
Yes.
do right, and I'm going to do right. By Dr. Willie Morrow and the OAB, and we're going to do our part to keep the legacy alive. Mr. Abdullah said he is very, everybody's just saying they're thankful, thankful, thankful. They're hitting the heart, but I'm like, this is really beautiful. So we are ready. We're going to wrap this up. TC, anything else you want to say, or a question or something before we, wrap up? Or
Well, Ladosha, when are we coming back with Miss Cheryl Morrow to talk more?
All right, so we are going to be back next Sunday, same time, same bat station, same bat cave, same black energy. You know what I'm saying? The energy is going to be good because she said, hey, y'all can have all the money, all the products, all the barberias and YouTube, but if you ain't got love, you ain't got nothing. So we're coming back with some love and that entrepreneur, not entrepreneur, but entrepreneur spirit. And the docu-series again is Heirloom. And again, she said, we don't have to hustle, guys. We are heirs from the thrones of all over. And so we're going to talk a whole lot more about that. So we was able to, go ahead on and get that, that premiere, which I'm just feeling all pumped. I told about it first. And so we're going to come back and we are going to begin again. How do we lose black hair? We got to talk about this natural hair movement. We're going to talk about that pick. We're going to talk about this hair mapping, the 4C. We're going to talk about this Lois, the lock-in oil, all this other stuff, the juices and berries that y'all putting on your head. So she's going to talk about it. It's going to get controversial now. So all you naturalistas and natural hair communities, y'all, I'm going to put out there, I don't like it. But I ain't gonna, I'm sure I'm gonna let you save it. You may feel differently, but I'm just putting it out there. I can't stand it. And so
I'll be gentle. We'll be gentle.
Oh, so I see she's maybe a little bit on my side, okay? So join us next week. We're going to do this again at 6 o'clock. And TC and I, we're going to do some practice with the StreamYard because TC has put together some wonderful footage, and we want you guys to see that. So this was our first time on this platform. And we're going to learn a lot more. Congratulations again to Ephraim Abdullah on your free pass to the Textures exhibit. And all you got to do is just watch. I got a lot more of these tickets. I got a whole lot, guys, a whole lot more. And then, of course, Dr. Leah Love has won a digital ebook of what they don't tell you at the hair salon. I have hair care products. I also have white polish. I'm also going to give away, now I'm not doing a knockoff, y'all. You're going to get the real deal. It's going to be in the package. So when you come back, you're probably going to be able to have a chance to win your very own, the real deal, Dr. Willie Morrow thermal nozzle. Is this the real deal?
That's the real deal.
That's
They
the
pay.
real deal.
It's at the same plant, not 45 years. That
Wow.
same place. We still pour all of the material hot. Everything is still the same as it was in early 80s.
Okay, guys, so you're gonna be able to win. I'm gonna be going live. Me and TC just gonna keep posting. It's going crazy up in here. So we're gonna be giving that away on the next live. So get ready. We thank you so much.
I
And I
gotta
have
get
a
the
little
hemp
plan.
ones to you.
Go ahead.
I gotta get the hemp ones to you.
Oh, the hemp one. Oh, shoot, now, okay.
I'm the only comb company in the world that is still a black manufactured, black controlled, black owned, black hemp. So we make combs in hemp now. So if you want to be biodegradable, and I got to send you and TC one.
All right, so we can eco-friendly. It's
Oh,
new levels,
absolutely.
y'all. We're gonna talk about this. This is all that natural hair care. We're gonna see how natural it's gonna get next week. So we appreciate that. So I have a saying that I always say when I sign off on all of my lives, and what I say always is always about a whole lot of peace. Most certainly, it's always about a whole lot of love, and most definitely, it's always about a whole lot of hair. But check this out: if you ain't got no hair, don't want no hair, can't stand hair, but you still like watching hair porn, you know what I say? Don't worry about it. Just rub your beautiful bald head. You want to know why? Because bald heads are most certainly beautiful too. Deuces, we'll see y'all next Sunday at 6 p.m.